In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the current conditions. As always, we will be moving into the upcoming pattern as well, where we will see multiple snowstorms, multiple Arctic blasts, and really just a very interesting winter-like pattern about a month early to have this type of a pattern happening. Very, very cold fall we've had so far, and it looks like we're going to finish things up in a very, very cold fall as well. Now, let's take a look at the current conditions, and as you can see, our jet stream is diving south here across the central United States. We can see the jet stream is doing something like this, I would say, and the coldest of the temperatures are going to be in this area here. This is the coldest zone that we're seeing at this point. The warmest areas are going to be along the western United States, but really it's not even that warm anywhere in the United States outside of Florida, which usually has a whole different climate, so it makes sense. We can see that most of the activity, or even all of the activity, is happening east of the Rockies. We'll take a look first off at some of these showery conditions happening. We have snow and mixed showers happening here across the north central United States, Montana, Wyoming, the Dakotas as well here. Mostly snowfall, but some pockets of rainfall forming as well. The brighter whites are going to be your heavier snowfall. The grayer areas, the darker grays, are going to be your lighter snowfall taking place, some of which might not even be making it to the ground. Now, as we work our way further southward, we can see some rainfall and snowfall showers across Texas and New Mexico here. Looks like they're switching over to rainfall as we reach the higher temperatures here as we're reaching around noontime. Snowfall still happening for portions of New Mexico. Now, as we work our way to the Gulf here along Texas, we can see that there is some showers and thunderstorms potentially forming here along that Texas coast happening. Now, as we work our way more towards the Great Lakes, we can already see some snow showers taking place in here, but definitely some lake effect beginning as we're going to potentially have a historic lake effect snow event for Buffalo, New York, and surrounding regions. Certainly very, very interesting stuff and really unfortunate, for those areas. That level of snowfall is beyond excessive. So definitely hoping that we get the lower end of things there with that potential lake effect event. Lake effect has always been a very, very interesting topic to me. Now, we do have some mixed showers here across the Ohio Valley and portions of the upper Midwest. We could see the lakes starting to show signs of some lake effect type precipitation happening for areas in Michigan here. And we can see some bands already forming here off of Lake Erie as well. So these areas are going to likely switch over to snowfall by tomorrow. And again, this corridor in here is where we're watching for that historic snowfall, already some starting up. Certainly, by the time we are reaching Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, this could be a 4-day lake effect event. This is going to be really showing whether it's going to be historic or not. But unfortunately, it is leaning towards being one of the big ones, certainly. Now we can see our snowstorm here that was happening as of yesterday morning. It was happening in Pennsylvania and some surrounding states. Now it has moved up into New England, where we do see a lot of snowfall here happening for the northern regions of New England. Here, this has been a colder event than what was forecasted. I have heard that for sure. Some areas that were expected to only get rainfall have seen some snowfall with this one. We can tell, though, like what I said yesterday, the coastline here is kind of just too warm. Even as far north as Maine, the very tip of the Atlantic coast here in the United States, we can see that this is just too warm from the ocean. We can see the bands are pushing northward as well. And this is leading towards that ocean air making its way pretty far inland. And this is why we're seeing rainfall or potentially mixing here along the coast. And then once you get a little bit inland, it's full-blown, very heavy snowfall. Like I've always mentioned, the blues there are going to be your whiteout conditions. Whites are going to be very, very heavy snowfall there as well. So certainly some heavier snowfall coming down with this storm at this point. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and move on. There's only some lighter precipitation for the most part happening here. We're going to move on to the upcoming pattern and really dive into what we can expect over the next 15 days, including Thanksgiving and the beginning of December. Now here we are taking a look at some of the upcoming storminess. As we reach into Friday, we can see that heavy lake effect snowfall taking place across a lot of the lakes here. Just again, a very crazy snowfall event, potentially historic as well. Obviously, we're hoping that it is not historic, but regardless, it is going to mean feet and feet of snowfall for many different areas. The thing with lake effect snowfall is, every single mile, or even less than a mile, even every half mile, quarter mile, makes a big difference in snowfall totals. These bands are itty bitty, tiny bands of heavy snowfall that are very isolated and very localized. So you could see one town see 4 feet of snowfall, and then the next town over, it's like 6 inches of snowfall. Very big difference depending on location, and it is extremely hard to predict as well. So, an area like Buffalo, New York, the band could set up just to your north or south, and then you don't get quite as much as expected, or it could set up right over you, and everywhere surrounding you doesn't get as much, but you get a ton. It really just depends. Now, as we continue things on, we see that lake effect snowfall still occurring by Sunday, which Buffalo does have a home game against the Cleveland Browns, I believe. So that would mean potentially some snowfall in there. And even if it is an away game for the Cleveland Browns, I think Cleveland might be seeing snowfall at this point as well. So certainly going to be a snow game, it appears, regardless of location or anything like that. We do see the cold lifts off a little bit. We get a little bit of a flatter jet stream here by Tuesday, but then our next trough begins to move through with another big storm potentially. This GFS model is calling for a bit of a snowstorm here with the southeast ridge. So our jet stream is doing this, something like this. You can see the southeast is getting some push from the south with some warmer air, and this means a lot of snowfall potentially for these areas when we see this type of a setup. And sure enough, that is what takes place here. A lot of mixing, but we do get a monster storm developing here off of New England, and this leads towards heavy snowfall throughout New England, New York, and some of the Appalachian states there. As we continue things on, this becomes even more of a coastal storm. It becomes a 975 millibar low pressure center, bringing snowfall all the way to the coast. So this would be a very major snowfall event for the Northeast. Certainly something to track here. And then as time moves on, we get a little bit more mild with the pattern. Now, total precipitation through the next 15 days would look something like this. Anywhere in the whites, expecting practically no precipitation. Your grays, 1/10 of an inch or less. Your greens, 1/10 of an inch to 1/2 an inch. Your blues, 1/2 an inch to an inch. Yellows, 1 inch to 2 inches. Reds, 2 to 5 inches. And then your browns, there are 5 to 10 inches of precipitation. Blues even being 10 to 15 inches of precipitation. And magentas, 15 to 20 inches. And we do see 15 to 20 there for the Olympic Mountains up there in the Northwest, and even some of British Columbia up in Canada. So certainly a whole lot of precipitation expected for those areas. Total snowfall here through the next 15 days. In the grays, a dusting if anything. Blues, 2 to 6 inches of snowfall. Purple, 6 to 10. Pinks, 10 to 20 there. Pastel blues, 20 to 38 inches of snowfall. And then our pastel pinks, like what we see for upstate New York and New England. That's going to be 38 inches plus potentially, according to this model. Take it with a grain of salt. A lot of this is pretty far out, but regardless, we do expect a lot of snowfall for those Great Lake regions, and they've already seen some snowfall throughout the day, yesterday and today, so this is just going to be the icing on the cake. So certainly very interesting stuff. Now for the temperature pattern here, let's keep going with this. We do see the cold air is going to stick around. We know it's already in place, but through the weekend, we expect this to last all the way at least until Monday and Tuesday, where things do mild out a little bit. We get more near normal conditions across most of the United States here. A little bit yellow, a little bit blue. It's going to be pretty close to what's typical. And we even get this southeast ridge, like I mentioned, by the time we're reaching closer to the weekends at Thursday, Friday time frame. But this is followed up with a full-blown Arctic blast again, where we have a big ridge in the west, big trough in the east here. Clearly what we call a positive PNA out west. And what this means is there's a warm air mass in the western regions of North America. And as you can see, this forces all the cold air to head into the eastern United States. It works like oil and water, where it does not, the cold here that's coming from the Arctic does not want to go where the warm is. It wants to go where the warm is not. So this is why it heads into the eastern United States when we do have that positive PNA. And that continues on for quite a while. We see cold along the East Coast at least through the beginning of December, and then we see things get a little bit more flat here as we have a warm air mass set up over a lot of the United States potentially. But take it with a grain of salt. This does happen at the very end of the model run here, and we have seen this model kind of hint at this before and then get away with it. So take it with a grain of salt. That very last second pattern change at the very end could happen, could not. It is very far out, and it's going to be hard to decipher, but we will continue to track the weather pattern. We will get to the bottom of what December will look like very, very shortly. So be sure to subscribe, hit that bell notification icon as well. That will send notifications to your phone or whatever device you're using whenever I upload, so you can get those updates right away. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it. Leave a comment down below, and I will see you guys in the next video.